I said I was 36 and Brooke's like 37. And I was like, I'm not 37 yet. Wait, oh my God, I am.
And I'll be 34 in 2 months. This is all going in the video, right? This is all.
Oh, yeah. This is all real.
This is it. Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Antebellum!
Antebellum. So before we go anywhere, I don't know if you can hear this or not, but so you hear that?
Yeah.
So this is the score from the beginning of the movie and the climax as well. So you got that in your head?
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm going to play something else for you.
That's the X-Men theme?
It's the same piece of music. I am watching the movie and I'm like, I know this music.
That is awesome.
So the whole movie, I'm like,
so this is a superhero movie.
I also have notes. It's not a lot, and I'm gonna come out and say it right away.
I got a page.
I think that it's a beautifully filmed, beautifully shot film.
Yeah.
The
photography is good.
I don't think it could have been any more or any heavier handed than it is.
Yeah.
I think that, but I mean, maybe that's what it takes for some people to realize that the past is not dead.
It's not even past.
Yeah. But that's on the surface, like my takeaway as I watched it, I was just like, Anyway, this is your choice, so we'll start with you.
I have to wonder if the filmmakers would see that reaction and go, "Oh, is it hard to watch? Is it hard to watch, white boy?" Yes, director, it is hard to watch. It's so hard to watch
because it's just not done well.
No. I will disagree. I do believe that there were improvements that could be made to this movie. But all in all, I think the movie is really good. I think there's huge amounts of subtlety, some not so subtlety. Half of my notes could be like, ooh, this is interesting. And then it's like, oh, wait, that's the actual story you're going for. You're not making me feel clever. You're making me go, oh, no, that's the plot of the movie.
Which is okay to point out. That's what I end up doing the whole time is, oh, I saw this. I'm like, yep. Going for.
So if you haven't watched it, viewers, if you have not watched it, this is a movie that can absolutely be spoiled, and even in describing the plot is spoiling it. If you haven't seen it and you have any intention of seeing it, just stop watching, because to be honest, it's once we start, bam, we've spoiled stuff. So
I didn't know anything about it. I thought it was an Apple movie. So I went into Apple TV and I'm like, oh no, it's just video on demand. It's not one of their movies. But I didn't watch a trailer. I didn't read a synopsis. I didn't do anything. It wasn't until Kiersey Clemens' character was introduced, and I started thinking, like, God, did they do any historical research? Because it just like they're not speaking like they are in this time period,
right?
And I thought that Janelle Monáe was blind at times because of how she was setting herself up for later.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking, okay, is she blind? What's going on? But then, yeah, I ended up looking up what was going on. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah.
So the movie starts with an incredible long shot. What are they called? They're not
The
long
long
shot.
take, yeah,
The long take.
or tracking shot, yeah.
Beautiful shot going across a slavery plantation. You have this woman and her daughters picking flowers, but the shot keeps going, and suddenly we're seeing Confederate soldiers walking around this plantation and introducing themselves to, or not introducing themselves, but waving at slaves who are waving at them as they go by. Then we get into the cotton picking field slaves, which were not great. We see Janelle Monáe being carried back to the plantation on a horse. It keeps going past her to looks like some slaves who were running away. One of them has been collared with a iron bells.
Yeah.
So that they could hear him if he tried to run away. And another woman who tries running away, and she winds up getting, a noose around her neck and then shot. And that's, incredibly long take, beautifully framed to the X-Men theme, apparently. But just really well shot, very dramatic. And I don't want to get into my analysis too quick, but that shot is perfect. That could be the whole movie, that shot, because it shows how inseparable the plantation with the woman and the girl, their happiness, how inseparable that reality is from the brutality of slavery. I mean, call it the whole movie, but like anyone who thinks like, oh, well, we like that time period, just not the slavery aspect, that argument's out the door in this shot. Like the directors are telling you that is not a thing. You cannot have this without that. And they combine them into this one long shot to really nail that home right off the bat. The cinematographer won me over. Like not only did you do a difficult take, the difficult take is beautiful and has meaning. Like it's significant. Fantastic.
And it makes me like the technical aspects, because like they go over like hedges and through like tree lines, and it makes you wonder, is it a guy with a steady cam, is it a boom,
is it a drone?
Yeah,
I
so
thought it was drone, because it's a silent take.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they added in sound and post,
right, but there's no like discernible dialogue,
right. But I would have to agree, I got really excited for what was to come solely because of this take. And I will say that it's not matched again until the end. I would say it's pretty routine in the middle, but then the ending is
beautiful,
breathtaking.
There's a few shots I think give you this moment, but there are plenty that do not.
Yeah.
Our first big spoiler is that this movie is broken up into 3 very distinct sections.
Yeah.
They are not like the 3-act structure doesn't even come close. They all but say Act 1 begins now, Act 2 begins now. They are very distinct, and they don't do that, again, I think for the same reason as the first shot, is that you can't separate the 3 things. But okay, so we are on a slavery plantation where it, as Heath mentioned, there's a lot of incongruities, historical inaccuracies, modern language really is a big one. One of the slaves trying to agitate his foreman calls him a cracker. His master, yeah, he calls him a cracker. And it's like, okay, if that's what we're doing. But this is like the cotton picking is not even the purpose of the plantation. You see them picking the cotton, but you later see them like just setting it on fire. It's
that was
not
a big thing.
like it's not useful. It's not being used to make stuff.
And it just shows, I mean, clearly, as we'll get into, that's not the reason that the plantation is there.
Right.
But it's the act of the picking is theater for the whites, for the overseers, for the master or whatever. But it's all that they do. The black the slaves. That's all that their life is there, and for them to be out in the sun, blister their fingers and everything, and pick this thing just to see it light on fire. It's just another level of torture. I mean, clearly that's not how it was in reality. I mean, that they were cash crops, and
slaves.
So that was another thing that kind of made me think, like, what is going on here?
Like, yeah, there's a lot of historical inaccuracy is what jumped to my mind.
But it's not to say that it's, I mean, there's a reason for it. It's not that it's a poorly researched film. Let's get that out of the way.
Right. So
there are reasons that it's historically inaccurate.
But it was bold of the filmmakers to jump in with, we are making things that aren't that any historian is going to look at and be mad at the film until the film reveals the reasoning behind it. So Janelle Monáe is asked her name by a general in the military, I guess, the Confederate military. And he's trying to teach her loyalty and respect. So she doesn't want to answer him and give him her name. And so he just beats the crap out of her, and he winds up branding her with this, it looks like BD, set of initials and a horseshoe, I think is the symbol. And this will be all throughout the movie, the symbol. But it's a brutal scene. It is not like pleasant, and deeply implied bodily ownership. He lays on her, he leans on her. It's constantly, I mean, aside from the visual physical assault, just beating the crap out of her, just also manhandling her, and any idea you had about, a master-slave relationship, that friendship or anything like that, it's just not there. There is no pleasantness about it. And in reality, those things aren't there. So like that being absent is not uncalled for. It's just, it's extreme, and they're going to show you. The next day you have new slaves coming in. The Jenna Malone character, Jenna Malone's in this. She's still alive.
Yeah, she crops up now and then. Last thing I saw her was Neon Demon.
Yeah. But so she is choosing her slaves, and she's admiring the hair of one of her slaves, and her daughter is like, coming up, and she's like, do you want to name this one? And so her daughter names her Julia. Well, Julia then finds Janelle Monáe's character and is like, you got to get me out of here. I'm pregnant. We need to escape. And she's like, look, I've tried. Let's just accept this so that we can survive. It jumps forward to a dinner scene, I guess. And at dinner, the Confederate army is being served by these kitchen slaves, including Janelle Monáe and the new Julia. And the girl Julia is then given to one of the Confederate soldiers as like, that dude's coming to your cabin after dinner. You need to be ready for him. So go clean up. And that turns into another like scene where he's, the soldier's like, I don't really want to rape you. And she's like, great. That's awesome. Thank you for being nice. And then he gets mad at her for being happy about his niceness. And it feels, like gives you a little hope and then destroys it. And he gets angry. He kicks her in the stomach and beats her up. And then just, it's like, you better convince everyone that I had my way with you. Just more and more uncomfortable. And you figure out that they're going to try to escape again. But the next day, the girl Julia miscarries, and the Eli, the male slave we see, is assigned to clean out a brick house. The brick house is a shed that is a piece of metal over vents where they have put wood under, and you can put a body in there to burn it. And it's just a crematorium. Brilliant shot, that the first one where it's like over where you see bars and then this rectangle and him entering this cell of death. That's a shot that I would say is very good as well. There's another one earlier where Janelle Monáe, Eden throws Julia out of her cabin and closes the door, and you can see it's like a split screen with Julia on one side and Janelle Monáe on the other, holding the door. So after this traumatic scene, we then see Janelle Monáe's character wake up to a cell phone ringing. And we are now in Act 2, where she is in modern times next to a man, and her daughter's coming in, and it's 2020. And she is a doctor who's been talking about protecting the interests of Black men and women, and being yelled at by Republicans on TV. And she gets a invitation to a meeting from another character. This one is Jenna Malone, who is self-described talent scout.
Headhunter. Which was very apt.
And sees Veronica is her name. So Eden's name in modern times is Veronica, and sees her and her daughter behind her, and is like, takes an interest in her daughter. Like, oh, is that your daughter? I have a daughter about that age. We should set up a play date. And Veronica's like pretty creeped out by her, and eventually is like, all right, well, I'm gonna end this call. This is uncomfortable. She compliments her lipstick and is like, that's a great color lipstick. It really matches your skin tone. I couldn't pull it off. Kind of really reminding Veronica of her skin tone. Then we know Veronica is going to a convention. She's got a plane to catch. So she gets out, she goes on a plane. Her daughter gives her a picture, is like, this is you and me. And when you see the plane in the sky, that means mommy's coming home. So she goes to this convention, checks into her hotel, and is doing yoga. And it's a really weird scene because it again shows her face, but now she's like hanging there and she's sweating, and you don't really know for way too long whether or not we are in modern times or back at the plantation. And it turns out she's doing yoga. Has a private yoga instructor at her hotel.
And I'll say that there are things that the filmmakers did, giving whether they're context or direct clues, that kind of make her ending a little more believable, I guess. So the yoga is one of them. You can
Right.
see that she is like a champion horse rider. Like she's got like trophies or pictures or whatever.
Pictures of her on horses.
Right. So there are things that they did to kind of lend a little more believability as we get further in
later on. But yeah, so she's actually at the hotel is a convention she's speaking at. Her and her friends. She has two other friends who are at the hotel who are also speaking at this convention. One black friend, one white friend. They give a speech and then they go out to dinner. Around the time, Jenna Malone's character like goes to the hotel and is like, "Hey, I left my key in the room. Could you open the door?" And the staff at the hotel is just like, "Sure," and lets her in.
This is where I was saying that some of the heavy-handedness comes in. When she's trying to make reservations for the restaurant, the concierge at a very nice hotel is being weirdly like spiteful towards her. Dismissive. I guess to show like this is how racist everybody is, which okay, I understood.
Well, I don't know if that's direct, but we, the audience, are like Janelle Monáe. We don't know why the concierge is being mean, and our mind immediately jumps to race because I think part of the point of the movie is how present her skin color is to her, because everything around her is reminding her that it's built on slavery and that race may be a factor in 100% of interactions she has. She honestly just can't know. She can't tell. When they go to the restaurant in a second, the hostess, Rebecca, which we don't see her face, we only see her name tag. We see her from the neck down, shows them to their table. And their table is this incredibly small, clearly a table for two with a seat added in for a third. And they're like, this table is inadequate. We're going to sit over there. Let's not discuss why you tried to put us at the very small table. And it's that kind of presence where you're like, is the reason race, or is it that they are trying to save the bigger tables for people for four? Like the waiter comes by and is like, "Are we waiting on a fourth?" And they're like, "No, it's just three of us." Okay. So maybe Rebecca sat them there because they don't have tables for three. Or maybe she saw black people coming into a fancy restaurant and is like, why don't we sit these people where they can't be seen, where they're not going to make the other guests feel offended or feel nervous or feel that the quality of customer who comes here is lower. It could be race plays a factor in every one of these interactions, but we don't get to know, because if it were you or I, we know race isn't a factor because they're not putting white people in the corner for no reason.
Right.
But for Janelle Monáe, maybe it is. And like, there's a lot of really cool hints around this time. Like all throughout the hotel, you see pictures of plantations. You see these reminders of slavery. And
what's interesting is you bring that up. Even in Veronica's house, there's a painting of her in like
Victorian
Yeah,
clothing. Yeah.
I thought was really interesting too.
Antebellum clothing, I guess, is the American Victorian.
So I thought antebellum meant after the war, but it means before.
Mhm.
So I swear I remember in high school
The word
learning
anti,
that antebellum like time was post Civil War to like the 1920s or something.
the
But
word anti means before. The
right,
prefix, like antechamber is the before chamber.
right,
So that's what I always think of is
sure.
antebellum before.
So I would this whole time I didn't see that until I just looked up what her name was and saw the definition of antebellum, and I was like, whole time was thinking, oh, it's after slavery, but it's really not. But
It's not.
it doesn't mean.
But
And the
in
E's are one of the E's is backwards in the title, and I was
yeah,
trying to figure out why. Like,
I was
it's
going
got
to
to be a
ask you
conscious
that later.
decision.
I was going to ask you that later. Why you think the E is backwards?
Okay.
Um, but some other hints in the hotel. Her blinds in the hotel room. Like these are not hotel blinds. They are all like slat blinds, like the really big, thick blinds. And her friend comes and opens them all up. And they look like all this light streaming in, they look like bars. And just opposite that wall, so if like that's like the window here, just opposite that wall is a giant rectangle on the wall. So if you were to be outside that room looking through it, it would look just like the shot earlier in the film where it's looking down on the brick room with the bars over it.
Okay.
Um, Second to that, I guess, well, I guess before that, when she wakes up, her house is covered in uh, reminders. Like the wall behind her bed is made of brick, the same looking brick that's the house where they burn the dead. In the antebellum time or whatever, the Civil War portion. Her house has um, flowers by the door that look like cotton. They are white, puffy plants. And like she knows that like her present is built on the exact same world that slavery had.
And
Our world now, you
she
know?
lives in DC, or at least close to it, because
Right.
because her husband says he has to go to Georgetown, which is
Virginia.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a DC university, but yeah, she either lives in Maryland, Virginia, or Washington D.C., which kind of
Julia
just
even asks her, like, she's like, "You're from
you're from
Virginia, right?"
Virginia, right, right. Um, so just knowing that she's that close to the country's capital and
Yeah.
seeing all the reminders,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one more.
Right. And so after dinner, they get a um, a drink from a stranger at the bar who sends over a drink, then comes over to talk. And Janelle Monae's friend, the very, very sexual friend, um,
Gabrielle Sibidet,
very thirsty.
passion or push, not passion. Sapphire.
She, yeah, she judges his game, as it were, and correctly, identifies the shortcomings in his approach to hitting on her. But she's willing to look past it, gives him her number anyway, says, this could happen. Okay.
I thought the
So
whole everything that she says to me, like she is a very cringy person.
she is,
And like I did not like any portion of the restaurant
yeah,
scenario from start to finish because she causes a big scene about the table, which okay, got it, move on. And then she says something about champagne, and the waiter recommends Prosecco, which isn't champagne, but maybe he was making a statement about whether they could afford champagne or not. Who knows?
Who knows? But of course, Janelle Monáe is there to order this very expensive bottle of
Right.
champagne.
And then yeah, then the whole vodka crayon thing happens and she tears this guy down, which whether it was accurate or not, okay, but just the whole time I'm like, oh man.
She's an uncomfortable person to have around. Yeah. I've known people like that who, like, you take them anywhere and confrontation will happen.
Yay.
And to a degree, okay, not a big deal. I hate confrontation. So, like, the second she starts anything, I'll be like, I'll be right back. I have to go to the bathroom, and just like wait around the corner, like, is it over?
Did we get a free dessert?
No. I never ask for free stuff. I'm like the worst like customer. A waiter could be like, here's your damn food. And I'll be like, I'm sorry, let me tip you more. Like,
You must be going through something. I'm so sorry.
I went through something terrible. I'm so sorry. Whatever I did, I'm sorry. But so like after dinner, she gets they're taking separate Ubers, I guess.
Aren't they all staying at the same hotel?
Yes, but they're going different places because Janelle Monáe, Veronica, has to go to bed early. She has an early flight to go be with her daughter. And like normally you would gloss over all of the hows, but the movie does not and thoroughly explains the reason behind everything. So the girls are going out, they're going to be partying, and she's going back to the hotel to get some sleep because she has to be home in time to take her daughter to a birthday party. Like there's a reason for everything.
Well, that's
And
good.
yeah. I don't.
I would
think it was
much rather
necessary.
that. I would much rather them say like, all right, the reason this is happening is because of this, this, and this, and the reason that it can't be like this because of this. I'm fine with that. I'm much happier that they stated all of this. I just forgot. Rather than them taking two different Ubers and never say, because then afterwards you'd be like, well, why the hell did you get in a different Uber? You're staying at the same place.
But like even after that, so her Uber has really loud thumping bass music. And she won't turn it down, and she gets a phone call, so she answers it, and it's her Uber driver back at the restaurant like, hey, I'm here, are you coming? She's like, no, I'm not, I'm already in the car. And then she realizes she's not in the car, she's in the car with Jenna Malone, and she's being kidnapped, and the person kidnapping her is Jasper, the slave driver or the, what would you call him, foreman, slave foreman, overseer, there you go. From the plantation in the early half. And she gets her head slammed against the window and is knocked out. And then we are back at the plantation, and now we have new context. The plantation she's also being woken up to a cell phone, but she's back at the plantation, and the cell phone going off is the general who gets up from having raped Veronica, Janelle Monáe's character, and goes to answer his cell phone from his horse. And we start to realize that this isn't the Civil War. The Civil War is not going on, but instead modern people are kidnapping and enslaving Black people. That's why they're burning the cotton, because what do you do once you pick cotton? There's nothing to do with it now. You can't, there's no market where you go and sell cotton. So they're back in the field picking cotton, and Julia, the girl from earlier, is missing. The girl who miscarried earlier is missing. And so Janelle Monáe, Veronica goes to look for her and finds her hanging, having decided that death was preferable to slavery.
Yeah.
So they decide they're going to escape again. And she gets out, Eli gets out, and they're going to get away, but they decide that they are going to take the cell phone and use it to call 911, which they try, but they don't have signal. So they have to go back to the cabin to get signal, but it's not enough signal. They can't send their GPS location with the phone locked, and it's locked by facial recognition to the general. So they go to sneak back in to get his face, but there's a fight. Eli is killed. So is the general. And she unlocks his face, calls her husband, and is like, I've been kidnapped. And for some reason, the daughter's awake there at like 3 a.m. And
yeah, because they're in Louisiana, they're in Virginia, they're what time? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Is there any indication of how long she's been gone?
No. Okay. We know at least 6 weeks because there's a 6-week jump early on. Okay. And when the 6-week jump happens, she had already attempted to escape. So we know at least minimum 6 weeks. But so she sends her location, having killed the general, used his face to unlock the phone. She sends her location to her husband, who I assume calls the police, and she starts to go away, but instead decides to first wrap the general in the Confederate flag, drag him into the body burning building, and then goes and gets Jasper and some other Confederates, moves them into the body burning building, setting all the racist people on fire. She decides she's going to escape, but first takes the Union jacket and puts it on and gets on a horse and starts riding. She's being chased by Janelle Monáe, or not Janelle Monáe, Jenna Malone. They're both JM names. Jenna Malone.
Call them Elizabeth and Veronica if you want.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I forgot to mention that towards the earlier in the description, talking about the inaccuracies, the flag is a big one.
The flag
that's
is
what everyone thinks of, like, oh, that's the Confederate flag, but it's not.
It's close
not the one that they flew.
It's the one. Okay. It is kind of a cross between the naval battle standard and the late game battle standard. So yeah, it's close enough. It is definitely a symbol under which Confederate armies fought. And any flag in modern day is based on flags from the Confederacy. That is where those symbols originated. So you can say whatever they mean now, but that's where those symbols originated. That's where they come from. I mean, it's like, you can say, hey, the swastika was originally a Hindu symbol, but if you're wearing a swastika, no one's going to be like, that dude's probably a Hindu.
Maybe.
Like, no, when the KKK shows up to burn crosses on the lawn of black people, that's the flag they bring.
Yeah,
they don't bring whatever battle standard or Confederate flag. They don't bring that. They bring this symbol, this flag.
That's the entire point I'm making.
Yeah, right.
Not okay. It's like, I think you missed what I was saying. Is that this is not the Confederate flag that we think of now is not the flag that was typically flown by actual Confederate.
No, you're right. It's not the Confederate flag.
So
it's the racist
that's what
flag.
The whole point I was trying to make was that it was another kind of hint that not everything is as it appears.
Right.
Anyway, back to Veronica and Elizabeth.
Back to Veronica and Elizabeth. Veronica is escaping on horseback and jumping over fallen trees, which is difficult, but as previously established, she is an equestrian connoisseur. We've seen photos of her on horseback. She gets a text from her husband saying, "Hey, look, your daughter's going to be an equestrian like you." And so we've established that she can ride a horse. But so can Elizabeth. Is that her name?
That is her name.
Okay. So white, that name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's following her, shooting after her. There's a fight, and Veronica puts a noose around her neck and goes riding on horseback, dragging her body behind. And her body slams into a stone monument, which breaks her neck, but it's revealed, is a statue of Robert E. Lee, to really nail home the Confederate monument ideation theme that they have going on. And so she keeps riding from there, and it turns out she is at a Civil War reenactment site. And as she goes riding through this Civil War reenactment, bombs are going off. There is a huge battle happening, gray versus blue. You have families bringing their kids with like picnic baskets coming by. And then there is this black slave woman having escaped, wearing a Union jacket, carrying a tomahawk, riding through the battle towards the police and rescue.
You would hope.
Well, they definitely established that. The song's lyrics are "Finally I'm going home," and then they follow it with a shot of an airplane, which, due to the conversation with the daughter, when you see the airplane in the sky, that means mommy's coming home. So
I was just saying, because the guy that owned it was a senator, and you see when she's getting abducted, there's a billboard for his campaign. They pass by.
That's right. Reelect him, Senator Denton.
Yeah.
That's not the only time we see him. Actually, in the bar, when they see the tall guy at the bar, he's listed in the credits as tall guy, by the way. The guy who gives them a drink, right behind him. I actually had to rewind it a second. I was like, hang on. He's on TV in the bar behind him. And it's the most lit thing in that shot because it's bright. Yeah, it's really bright. And actually, what it says under his name is Confederate monuments. He's talking on the news about Confederate monuments. And then, of course, the big sign that says reelect him, Senator Denton, or what's his name? Something Denton.
Yeah, it's Blake Denton, I think.
Yeah.
And then when Elizabeth and Blake Denton and Veronica are fighting, another thing that's set up is she does yoga. Veronica does yoga, and she pulls this move where she like wraps her leg around Elizabeth's, like something that an MMA fighter would do. Yeah. And I think that if they hadn't established her limberness, that'd be another place where I would go like, come on, what?
The yoga also, it explains how she gets out of bed when she's in bed with Senator. She has to like climb slowly and lower herself over him to get out.
There's a lot of cool things they did to set up that paid off later. I mean, I'll definitely give credit to that. And as we talk about it, like, I think that there's definitely more. I need to give it a little more credit as a film. I just think that whether it was intended to be overdone or if they thought that, like, if we don't make it blatantly obvious, then someone's going to miss it. But, like, the concierge and
even the flower guy was like,
there's just things that were like so cartoonish that it took me out of it. But again, I have to say, I first of all struggle with us talking about this film. Um,
Yeah.
just for this, and I think I said it last week for the same reason that you think we would have issue talking about Jordan Peele's movies. I meant to look up to see if the filmmakers were black or white. I would imagine that they're.
One of each.
That's awesome that they
One
can
is
come
black, one is
together
white.
and put together like a unified picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one that can stick around, that people will watch, because it is a good story. Eat your heart out, Shyamalan. I think they did it better than The Village.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
The twist
but
is so uncomfortable.
well,
Like,
yeah.
But it's like, and it's such a twist where you're sitting there going, oh my God, it's so much worse. It's so much worse. Like,
It's like mashing The Village with Get Out, I think.
oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
That's what I kind of think of.
Okay.
But I mean, maybe not. I don't know. But like I was saying, not only is it well told, well written, and definitely well acted. But again, I have to go back to, it's really well filmed.
It is really,
it's a
really well filmed.
That whole shot of her on the horse going through, and you see like the bright orange sky and the smoke and the very distinct greens, and just I was in awe, just like, what? And then you have the X-Men theme, bursting again, and it works. It's wow.
Yeah. It is a beautiful film. My personal favorite shot is so there's a lot of catharsis in the ending. Let's not deny it. We wanted to see racists get hurt, and we got to see racists get hurt. At least I know I did. I was like the mustache on Jasper. His name's fucking Jasper too. Like,
it's Angelica Houston's nephew.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Jack Houston.
I totally believe it. Like, I can see it, but I have never wanted to punch a screen just so much as when his face was on it. And I'm just like, ooh, because like he just relished in the superiority that only stems from being white. Because like the rest of his life, he feels inferior constantly. Because he's constantly like, you guys think you're better than us. And it's like, no, they just probably are, because you aren't worth much. But
what was interesting to me was, so it feels like Westworld kind of.
Okay.
So you have Daniel.
Yeah.
And Purcell.
Yeah.
And so Daniel's the guy that ends up beating the shit out of Kiersey Clemens, Julia. And
Daniel beats her up.
That's what I said.
Daniel's okay. I thought you said
Daniel's the guy that beats her up.
Yeah.
But when they're sitting there at dinner that night, Purcell is like, whatever, I'm going to the whipping post. So that makes me think that they have like stations set up to where you can just like, here's the whipping post. You can whip the shit out of a black person if you want. And here's the raping post, and you can rape here. And here's this area. Because I mean, you wouldn't just like, oh, I'm going to the whipping post. Like, you wouldn't just, you go there when there's someone to punish, and there wasn't necessarily anybody to punish at that moment. So I think that makes it, if there was a way to make it worse, that makes it worse to me.
Because it's a choice. It's not about it. And that's the thing, is the slavery here is not about the function of not
Right.
paying workers. It's not because they were cheap labor. It's we need to feel dominant.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be over someone, because right now in reality we're not, and we really enjoyed owning humans as property because it made us feel superior. There's a ton of power play symbolism there. People talking about their place. One of the things is really kind of subtle. I want to believe the filmmakers intended it, but it could have easily been accidental. In the conversation, the Zoom call with Elizabeth, I guess, Veronica and Elizabeth early on, she says she saw her at a roundtable discussion. Now, roundtable discussions are known for being no one at the head. That's the thing, is a roundtable is no one's the leader of that table. Everyone's equal. Well, even at home, Veronica's table is oval shaped. It's round. The big dinner with the Confederate Army, all rectangles. All of the tables are rectangles. At the restaurant, the small table that they were supposed to sit at was a square. And she's like, we're going to sit at that table, which was round. Even the lights were rectangle in the Confederate Hall. They had these rectangle glass things with a bunch of candles in them. But go back to the restaurant, we have round lights now. Everyone's equal now. Several of the things, like I don't know what her friend's name was. Was it Dawn? Was Dawn the friend, the loud friend?
I just know that it's Gabrielle Sivaday.
Okay. Well, she when she is rebuffing the tall guy's come-ons, the tall guy is using what would be considered a very traditional pickup line for a girl at a bar. You buy her a drink, and then she kind of owes you,
Right.
a conversation enough. But she didn't give him that. She rebuffed that. She is taking the power away from this person who isn't just owed a date or a conversation because he bought her a drink. He was kind of thoughtless about it. It's not about, he doesn't get control just for that anymore. And that's a reason why a lot of these guys wanted to go back to the Civil War times, is they want that control. Man, it was nice being superior to someone, because look at most rednecks right now. They're bottom rung. They are not. We have coal miners, we have farmers. They are not over anyone. And that's one of the reasons I think that a lot of racism still exists, is that they want there to be someone, literally anyone, who is worse than they are. Because the only thing worse than being like, we're all equal, is being told we're not all equal. You're just at the bottom. And if you're a real...
Let's pause and put a disclaimer that not all coal miners and farmers are rednecks.
Oh, no. And okay, yeah. I apologize. That is not
the message. I know what you were saying. The way it was structured was very problematic.
Okay.
But yes, you are correct.
There's not a step down.
Correct.
There's not like and that can be a frustrating position, especially when you're in a capitalism where there are winners and losers. When you are the loser and there's just no one below you, you may have to think either one, you have done something wrong, or two, there really is someone lower than you. It's everyone else's wrong for telling you they're not.
Yeah.
And so if you're not willing to accept that capitalism may not reward the most worthy, being poor means you can be racist or believe you are the worst.
And how some people get around, or I guess use, how some people get catharsis for it is in the bedroom. So people that are usually in lower status jobs, you got your retail workers, servers, whatever. In my experience, a lot of them tend to be more dominant in the bedroom, so they can get some of that control. So they know that at least in one place they have that control. And on the flip side, people that are like lawyers and doctors or senators, and that's why you hear so often about them in compromising situations with like prostitutes and stuff. It's because they want to be,
Submissive.
yeah, they want to be knocked down a few pegs. Um,
Yeah. And if you'll notice in the movie, all of the waiters, the hostess, the concierge, the bellhops, all white. All of them are white and having to serve and wait on black people. And from that racist mindset, there may be frustration, just kind of a, wasn't I supposed to be above someone? Someone? And that inspiring thought. And I don't mean inspiring like,
right.
I mean a thought that inspires something else. That thought leads people to the ideation of time periods where even these low rung farmers, the private and the military, there's someone a step down. There is someone there that you can be above and better than. And what's really amazing, I really love this movie, by the way. Like, I know I'm a sucker for movies with like small details, but there are, so like we've talked about it a little bit, how every interaction that Veronica has in the modern times is shaped in very large part by her color and her being a woman, and everything about it she always feels, we feel the presence of the Confederacy all around her, from the way the bricks are laid to the fact that there is a plantation picture in every room of this hotel. um she cannot escape being black
Yeah.
and feeling it in every interaction. Is Rebecca racist? Is the concierge racist? Is the flower delivery guy racist? She doesn't know, because if she has any bad experience, that thought is in her mind, and the directors put it in our mind. Like, we've probably seen movies where people get treated bad, and it never, the thought that jumps into our head isn't, is this about race? But in this movie, every one of those experiences, we go, was that? I mean, and I've had bad waiters, bad hostesses, bad concierge service, but this is the first time I was like, is it? Is it race that caused this interaction? And for her, that question comes up probably every time. I mean, she can't go through McDonald's and get a bad service without going, why? What is the underlying reason? Um, we obviously, the Senator Denton really feels very strongly about the Confederacy monuments and heritage. But they also made references to modern movements similar. There was a brilliant shot early in the film where the Confederate Army is marching with torches, and you're like, this is exactly what we saw a year ago, or was it 2 years ago, in Charlottesville?
Oh, um, I don't know, man.
More
I'm definitely
recently,
waiting anymore.
more recently than we would care to admit. Um, People marching for Confederate monuments. with torches lit in the middle of the night. Blood and soil, is their chant. And it is present. The past isn't dead. It's not even past. It is present. The not only is the modern world that Veronica inhabits completely built on the back of slavery, but the modern world that Elizabeth and Senator Denton inhabit is also built on the back of slavery. What's really fascinating, and this is probably, I don't know if the directors intended this directly, but I think it's kind of subtle how much Elizabeth is jealous of Veronica. So the very first shot of the movie is Elizabeth coming down the stairs to see her daughter. And Elizabeth is wearing an orange dress, and the daughter is wearing a yellow dress. When we jump forward, which we know to be the past, actually, the video call where she sees Veronica and is talking to her, Veronica's wearing an orange outfit and her daughter's wearing a yellow outfit. And she sees them and is like, oh, your daughter's so cute and adorable. And she'll later impersonate her. When she looks at her lipstick, she's like, that's an amazing color lipstick. It matches your skin. I couldn't pull it off. But she then takes that lipstick anyway and tries. When in the vehicle where Veronica gets in and they're going to kidnap her, the music on the radio is seemingly rap music. It's not. There's only 3 lyrics. I wrote them down. Warm leather ass is the only lyrics to that song.
All right.
But it's like warm leather ass, warm leather ass. And I'm like, what the hell is this music? But I think it's supposed to mean like...
Is it a real song? Did you look it up?
I didn't look it up. I didn't look up warm leather ass. I do not feel my internet search results are going to be great when I look up warm leather ass.
Let's see what it says.
When we see her examining slaves, no, not a real song.
It's like Etsy, like, oh, you want your ass to be warm and leather? Here you go.
Yeah, so I figured.
Yeah.
But so when she's examining slaves on the plantation, she looks at one of the girls who has really like wavy hair and is like, oh, I love your hair. And then in the end, when Veronica is escaping and she's chasing her hair has that same kind of wavy. She is the cultural appropriation champion. And like every scene we have her going, oh, I could have some more things Black people have.
I'll take this.
Yeah, exactly. And literally owning them as property and, shouting, you think you're better than me. And it's like, no, she didn't. She never once said that.
Yeah. The mental gymnastics that some people have to go through to arrive at their conclusions is astounding. I think I've encountered people that perhaps thought that they were better than me, but in the moment, I don't think I'm ever like, oh, they think they're better or they're out to get me. It's just not obviously not a healthy mindset to have in the first place, but
right.
It's just, what does it say about your own impression of yourself? Like, you have to put so much importance in yourself to think that somebody else is thinking about how much better they are than you.
Right.
They're just going through their day.
It only comes up when you already feel inferior. When you're like, maybe I really am inferior. No, it's not me that's making me feel that. It's you that's making me feel that I am inferior. At the end, her freedom comes through the Civil War.
Yeah,
Like,
going through it,
yeah,
literally.
literally going through the Civil War. Like, it's not the freedom of slave against slavery is not coming out of a peaceful anything. It's war. It was war. The Confederacy didn't end because we were tired of fighting, no matter what the Stone Mountain Laser Show says. um Sorry for those of you not from Georgia.
Break my sword on my knee.
Yeah,
Tired of fighting.
there is a large Confederate memorial carved into a mountain, and they do a laser show where Robert E. Lee, like, I'm tired of fighting, breaks his sword and throws it down. It's like, no, you surrendered because people were dying.
Yeah.
A lot of people were dying. This is not tired of fighting. It's, yeah. But that's part of the whitewashing of American history. But I think movies like this are a good reminder of this is the importance of hating the Confederacy. The heritage is not separable from slavery.
Yeah.
Because the present isn't separable from slavery. We're not talking, not even 200 years ago. This is like how recent it was. The Civil War was in, we're talking late 1800s. We're not even talking like the country itself isn't that old, and slavery ended after that.
Like, I've always wondered, because that's the battle cry, right? That's the battle cry of people that clutch to the flag is its heritage, not hate. Like, what heritage then? What is it that you're wanting to revive, or what heritage is it that you want to wrap yourself up in? Because what, you want to go back to growing cotton and tobacco? Is that, I mean, you want to be a farmer again? Okay, fine, go do that then. Or is it that you want to dress in all gray? Okay, do that then. Or is it that you want the power structure?
Yeah. And a lot of it is this culture of togetherness and usness versus everyone else. Remember when people used to call it the rebel flag?
Yeah.
Rebel against what?
Yeah.
Against the Union?
Against the man. Rebel against the man.
But the
Johnny
thing
Red.
is like, that flag is the center of the Jim Crow era. It's the symbol of the anti-social justice movement. It is like I said, that's the flag. When the KKK shows up to burn the cross, that's the flag they've got.
Yeah.
So you say it's not the Confederate flag? Fine. But it's the KKK flag. They fly it. So I mean, whether you think the Confederacy flew it or not, racists fly it today. So
I still think my point about the flag was missed.
no, I definitely understand what you mean. How it's
I was solely just trying to say, here's a clue that it's not completely accurate. That was all I was saying.
I get very passionate.
I understand what the flag is. I know that's why they're flying it in the movie. I get that they're flying that particular flag because of what's associated with it. All I was saying is that if this was actually in Civil War era, it is likely that this flag would not be the one that was being flown, especially in Louisiana.
That's true.
I digress again.
I guess the way we should end it is that the real Confederate flag is completely white and waving.
Oh, shit. There goes all of our Southern viewers.
We're both from Georgia. All we have are Southern viewers.
How do you feel about Lars Van Trier? Well, this is good. This bodes for a good discussion then. If you don't even know who I'm talking about.
Danish film director.
Yeah, part of Dogma 95.
Melancholia, Antichrist, The House That Jack
Uh-huh.
Built, Dogville, Dancer in
There
the
you
Dark.
go. That's the one.
A whole bunch of movies that I haven't seen but heard good things.
Dogville.
Dogville.
Yeah.
Wait, was that the one without a set?
Yes.
I saw that. Oh man, an eternity ago.
Well, good, because that's how long ago it's been for me.
Like it
So
was.
it's
It was
Nicole
so
Kidman, Paul Bettany, Philip Baker Hall,
Paul Bettany. That's right. Yeah.
and he's Thomas Edison. And yeah, there's no set. It's just an open soundstage with
tape
locations on the floor, and they mime opening doors and everything.
I don't even remember if I liked it. I'm excited to watch it again.
It's a tough one. It's Van Trier is a tough filmmaker.
Yeah.
I don't think I've watched any of the Melancholia trilogy. That's the Antichrist and two other ones. But he did Shia LaBeouf was in one that he did more recently, Necromaniac. I think not Necromaniac. Nymphomaniac, excuse me.
Okay.
With Charlotte Russe. Nope, that's a store. Somebody. But yeah, it was on Netflix, and it's like a 4-hour long movie, and it's broken into two pieces. Stellan Skarsgård's in it. But yeah, Dogville.
Dogville.
If we're gonna stick with tough movies.
Okay. So hey, why do you think the E was backwards?
Yeah, man. Because we're looking back. I don't know, man.
I think it's because they are trying to change parts of the past. Antebellum takes place in the past, and I think they are trying to rewrite it, to change parts of it, to whitewash it, to make us think something else when we think of that time period, to shade what reality was.
Okay. Better than what I thought. I just thought it was looking back. I don't know. And that the people are backwards. Backwards people.
Backwards people. Watch the film directors be like, nah, it's because it's out of order.
Like, what?
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, man.
And they'll say, wait, the E is backwards? Shit.
Who was in charge of this? How hard is it to get the letters going the right way? Call marketing.